Hello students, how are you? I hope you have seen the previous videos on influenza and pandemic. I hope you all like that. Uh, I know I am not a good teacher on this. This is the first time for us also. So excuse me if there has been some mistake or even my voice is not so good. So this was just an attempt to you to start get studying. Okay, so we'll move to the next topic of diphtheria, which we will be continuing in the series of the lectures of infectious disease. Okay, so let's start. So diphtheria is an infection which is caused by bacterium Corynebacterium diphtheria, which is characterized by a thick covering in the back of the throat, but it can lead to difficult breathing, heart failure, paralysis, and even death. Okay, the bacilli usually multiply in the throat and elaborate a more powerful exotoxin, which is responsible for formation of the grayish or yellowish membrane, commonly over the tonsils, pharynx, larynx, with a well-defined edges, which is marked by congestion, edema, local tissue destruction, enlargement of lymph nodes, and signs of toxemia. So the pathognomic of diphtheria is a pseudomembrane, which is found in the laryngotracheal region. Why we should care about this disease is because the pseudomembrane will affect the breathing of the person. That is why it is we have to treat. The best form of treatment, I think, is prevention. Recently, there has been uh, outbreaks of diphtheria in elder population. So you can see by this article which is published by Mr. Manoj here, a resurgence of diphtheria in India. I quote from his study only on 3rd September 2019. There was a media report of 25 medical students from Kalburgi district in southern India, Karnataka. The cases were also reported from various other states. Besides, there were three other southern states. It was also reported in Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana, and most other states. So, what does it tell us about? It tells about that it's waning of the herd immunity, or it can be because of the virulence of the virus. So, when we do not have 80% of our population is not covered by TPT vaccination, or the vaccination coverage is inadequate, there is an outbreak. So figures you can see of diphtheria, which is shown by WHO. So we had some like one these cases in 1980s. There are a lot of cases. As vaccine coverage increased, the cases have decreased. In 2018, the global figures are 1668 648 cases of reported cases of diphtheria, 86 with 86% of DPT3, and 35% of countries have reached more than 80% of vaccination of diphtheria. Why this 80% is important? It is to maintain a level of herd immunity so that there are no outbreaks of diphtheria. You can look at this figure which is showing in 1998 what is the coverage in which are the diseases with the how are the disease coverage. I put a GIF here, but I think it's not working. So the GIF is showing that in 1998, these were the countries or the hotspots which has less than the adequate coverage for DPT1 coverage. You can see India is around 70 to 80, and in Africa showing less than 60%. So this is, I think, the same thing. Immunization coverage with the third dose of vaccination with tetanus toxoid. India was is in 1950, less than 50. It is having in 1980s. Now we have adequate immunization coverage of more than 86%. This is also a GIF which is put. I think this GIF is not working here. I'm sorry for that. So the agent factors which lead to formation, which lead to the disease is Corynebacterium diphtheria. It is a gram-positive, non-motile organism. It has no invasive power, but is a powerful exotoxin, and the exotoxin is the one which leads a body response, which leads to local tissue destruction and the formation of pseudomembrane. There are four types of diphtheria bacilli. Here we know gravis, mitis, perifernis, and intermediis, all are pathogenic in man. But what which are much more concerned is gravis infections, which are much more severe. The source of infections are two types, the cases and the carriers, and the cases can range from subclinical cases to the frank clinical cases. Frank clinical. The carriers are a common source of infection. The ratio is 95 carriers to the 5. So you should also remember that in iceberg phenomenon of disease, you can also add diphtheria. For a 5 cases, you can have 95 carriers. Then a nasal of these, there are something called as temporary or chronic carriers or nasal or throat carriers. The nasal carriers are particularly dangerous because they will continue to shed the bacteria. The temporary carriers may be for a short period of 1 month, but the chronic carrier stage may persist for more than 1 year until they are treated. So the incidence of carriers in a community may vary from 0.1 to 5%, and this is a very important statement. If you have so much of carriers in the community, that means the immunization level are very low of that community. Infective material are nasopharyngeal secretions discharged from skin lesions, contaminated fomites, and possibly infected dust. Period of infectivity, unless treated, the period of infectivity vary from 14 to 28 days from the onset of the disease. But carriers may remain infective at much longer periods because they are not going to show any symptoms and we are not going to treat them. So they are going to continue shedding the bacilli and spreading it to form new cases. A case or a carrier may be considered non-communicable when at least two cultures obtained from nose and throat 24 parts are negative for diphtheria bacilli. Now you should always remember this dictum that you have to have two negative samples to discharge the patient. Host factors, age, diphtheria particularly affects children aged between 1 to 5 years. You all know this. In countries with widespread immunization, there is a shift in the incidence of the disease from preschool to school age. Both this has sexual equal affected immunity. See, infant born of immune mothers are relatively immune during the first few weeks or months of life. But if you look at in Bordetella pertussis, it is not like that. Infants are not immune. That's why we need to give them as severe. By the 6 to 8 years, approximately 75% of the children in developing countries have developed some antibodies to Corynebacterium diphtheria because of the skin infection. It is generally agreed that diphtheria occurs only in persons who possesses no antitoxin or who has this 0.0 LF unit per ml of antitoxin. The environmental factors which can lead to the spread of diphtheria are all can occur in all seasons, but it favors mostly the winters. It is spread mostly by droplet infection, but can also be transmitted directly to susceptible persons from infected cutaneous lesions. Yes, it has been documented that it can be transmitted by infected cutaneous lesions. Transmission by objects, cups, thermometers contaminated is possible, but only for a short periods. But if you are writing, it is good for writing for academics. But if your patient comes, you should always remember you should that it is transmitted by droplet infection. Portal of entry. The portal of entry is mostly the respiratory tract. What are the non-respiratory routes? It can be cut, wounds, and other ulcers not properly attended. Umbilical in newborn can also be the portal of entry. The site of implantation may be in eye, genitalia, or middle ear. The non-respiratory is less common seen in developed countries. Is spread by droplet infection. Symptoms of diphtheria include fever of 38 degrees, chills with fatigue, loose coloration of skin, sore throat, hoarseness, coughing, headache, difficulty swallowing, painful swallowing, difficulty breathing, rapid breathing, foul smelling, and very thin natural discharge, and lymphadenopathy. So you can see here, this is the photo of a child whose upper body is swollen. This is what something called a cervical lymphadenopathy, resembling what we call in medical terms a bullneck. Medical terminal parlance, which is seen mostly in uh, diphtheria. This is the skin and cutaneous diphtheria, a lesion which is showing an ulceration. A second type of diphtheria can affect the skin, causing pain, redness, swelling similar to other bacterial infections. Ulcers are covered by gray membrane, may also be skin diphtheria. So whenever you are taking a history, also you should also have diphtheria in mind, which can present in the atypical form. Now look at, this is the pseudomembrane of diphtheria. You can see this is a pale colored patch which is seen on the left tonsil, yeah, on the left tonsil of the person. It is covering the left tonsil, and if you remove this, it will be bleeding. There is hyperemia. There is erythema around here. Patient may have high grade fever. This is pathognomic. This is what we will need to prevent. So how will you diagnose diphtheria? Two classes with the CDC has mentioned two criteria for diagnosis. One is the clinical criteria, which we saw, and when supportive clinical criteria and laboratory criteria, where we isolate the C. diphtheria from gram stain or throat culture of clinical specimen, and or histopathological diagnosis of diphtheria by Albert stain. How will you control of diphtheria? It is done by treatment of cases, carriers, management of contacts, and at community level increased coverage of immunization with diphtheria toxoid. So the early detection of cases, as we know, we should do early detection of cases, search for cases and carriers in families and school contexts. Carriers can be detected only by cultures. Swab should be taken both from nose and throat. They should be examined by culture by the diphtheria bacilli, and this should also be done for virulence of the organisms. Coming to the isolation facilities, all suspected cases, carriers should be isolated, preferably in hospital for 14 days until proof free of infection. And when we prove they are free of infection, two consecutive swabs, 24 hours apart, are negative for the bacilli. It is uh, treated. Treatment of cases and carriers. Cases will be treated with diphtheria antitoxin should be given without any delay. Intramuscular dose can range from 20,000 units to 1 lakh units depending upon the severity. Penicillin is given for treat with the drug of choice for 5 to 6 days to clear the throat of from severe diphtheria and thereby decreases the exotoxin production. The case should be reported to health authorities immediately, and once recovered, active immunization with diphtheria toxin should be provided. Cases with 10 days course of oral carriers should be given treated with 10 days course of oral erythromycin. The management of contacts merit special attention. They should be throat swabbed, determine the immunization status, and take further action accordingly. We will see what action should be taken for contacts. Examine daily for the evidence of diphtheria for 1 week and bacterial surveillance for several weeks. Weekly swabbing has to be done. So if your immunization status, you'll ask immunization status non-immunized, give the person prophylactic penicillin, erythromycin, diphtheria antitoxin, and a primary course of 2 doses and a booster for non-immunized patients. A person who has received a primary course or booster for more than 2 years, one booster dose of diphtheria toxoid will be enough. And a person who has got primary immunization booster within previous 2 years, no need of further action. How will you control diphtheria in the community? It can be covered very simple by infecting those who are highly at who are highly susceptible. That is our infants and children by DPT vaccination or more recently the pentavalent vaccination. When is the vaccination should be given for routine immunization vaccines? We have combination of vaccines. So we give DPT 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 14 weeks followed by booster at 18 months and a booster once again second booster at 4.5 years. So here it is telling 3 doses of DPT pentavalent or 4 weeks apart, 6 and 14 weeks according to the universal immunization schedule, and the booster dose at 6 to 14 weeks or 18 months, and second booster of 4.5 years. The dosage is 0.5 ml. The route of administration is deep intramuscularly. The site of administration is lateral aspect of the thighs for infant. For older children after 5 years of age, and only two doses of DT have to be given. So for children more than 12 years of age, old and adults, preparation of the choice is DT. You give DT them. You don't need to give pertussis because pertussis doesn't happen after 5 years. So we do not remove pertussis. Pertussis component is the one which can cause fever and convulsions. So you no need of giving pertussis. This is another type of diphtheria where tetanus vaccine contains much lesser amount of diphtheria toxoid but the same amount of tetanus as in pediatric formulation. The anti-sera should be given. The anti-sera is prepared by the hot serum. It's the mainstay of passive prophylaxis for treatment of cases of diphtheria. It's very important. It has been shown that protecting a diphtheria is quantitative phenomena. The serum antitoxin titer against a small dose may not protect against a larger dose. The failure of diphtheria immunization may occur due to this phenomenon. You should always remember, because of giving passive antibodies, it can neutralize your active immunization. I have to rush because the video has to be 15 minutes and just cross 16 minutes. So the references we can see, you can view for further reading. You can also read in OP Guy. You can read Harrison OP Guy about diphtheria, and I hope you take care. After this, see you once again. So this ends my lecture series on infectious disease. You have to give two assignments on this case. One is on influenza H1, H1N1, and diphtheria and whooping cough. Thank you.